What's up, you guys? So today I wanted to talk to you a bit about how I use Vim. I've had a few people ask me questions about how I do completion. The main reason that people have been asking is because I said I don't use COC. In fact, I don't use anything that really relies on an external resource. So for example, like using Python, I don't use youcompleteme, I don't use COC, I don't use any of the other tools that exist like Omnicomplete. Instead, I actually use Mucomplete. Mucomplete basically acts as a simple wrapper around Vim's built-in completion. Yeah, that's right. Vim has built-in completion, in case you guys didn't know. It can actually complete in a bunch of different ways. It can complete based on the words in the actual file that you're looking at, included files, and it can even use IntelliSense, which is a way of basically doing smart completion using something called Omnicomplete, which actually a lot of languages have built into Vim, and on top of that, you can even use the syntax to make the completion better. So there's a lot of cool ways that you can do completion in Vim, but as a lot of people are used to in IDEs, you don't have as you type completion, where when you're typing, it will just automatically try and suggest words that you may want to be trying to type. But if you guys do want as you type completion, you will actually need to use Mucomplete or some other tool like it. This is why I use Mucomplete, is because it basically allows you to do chains, which is basically a way to do one completion method, so using something like Omnicomplete as its first one, and then if that fails, just try and complete based on the words in the file, and then if that fails, maybe look in the included files. Any of that sort of stuff can be done. And so as an advantage to this, you can make it adapt based on the language. Maybe if you're writing in the comments, you don't need all the other kinds of completion, maybe just do spelling completion, all that sort of stuff. So it's really awesome and really powerful for that sort of thing. Now, one of the greatest things about using Vim's built-in completion is the fact that you can do really neat things like integrating with different snippet plugins without having to do very much extra work, because most of the time they already have a way to do completion. You just have to make it work with whatever completion method you're using. In Mucomplete, it can basically just call the function right away. As long as you can find out what it is, you can just call it right there. Bam. Integration, very simple. On top of that, you can actually integrate different things like faking key bindings whenever you're using something native, versus doing something like that within something like youcompleteme would require you to look a lot more into the documentation and count on someone not changing too much. Versus with Mucomplete, the changes are pretty minimal, and most of the times things just work out of the box. Now in this video, I'll actually be showing you guys how you can make your own completion methods. So say for example, if you wanted to complete the month of the year, it'll be pretty simple to integrate into something like Mucomplete. Anyways guys, if you guys are interested in more videos on Vim, if you guys want to learn how to customize it, improve your workflow, and try and stay a bit more native, then be sure to like, comment, subscribe, the big three. Let me know that you guys are enjoying this content. On top of that, if you guys are interested in letting me know about what completion you're using, let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear what you guys are using. I want to know what's the most popular way to do completion right now. Maybe you guys do the same sort of thing as me. Maybe you guys have a more minimal, faster way to do it. Let me know. I'd love to hear from you. Anyways guys, let's get into it. Let's show you guys how you guys can use native completion within Vim, how you guys can make your own completion within Vim, and how you guys can get started with Mucomplete. Without any more delays, let's get into it. Alright, so just to start off, let's open up a terminal, and we're going to run Vim. We're just going to do none and no RC, so -u, none, -u, no RC. This just gives us Vim without any of the extra features. And then we just do set no compatible, and there we go. So now we have Vim with everything set up like it normally would without VI compatibility. If you don't know what I'm talking about, don't worry. This just allows us to actually access a lot of Vim's features. So now what we're going to do is we're going to fill this with text, and then we're going to start off with the normal completion that you'll see. All right, so now that we've started off pretty normal, we've got this text right here, and we can do our basic completion just by doing Control N. Now this will basically start from the top left, and go all the way to the bottom right. Pretty simple, and it will just basically give us completion. So if I did COU Control N, it will replace with could. If I just did C and hit Control N, it will give me everything that starts with a C. Now if I did C Control P, it will complete everything in the opposite direction, and in fact I can do Control N and Control P to go back and forth. Now that's actually just the normal completion. It has a bunch of different options that you guys can set that I will hopefully get a chance to show off later on in the video. But on top of that, you can actually use Control X, Control P to get the same sort of thing, but limited to just the buffer like you'd expect. Control X, Control N, same sort of thing. And basically all the extra special completion that you get with Vim follows that same sort of pattern. Control X, Control something will give you completion for that kind. So for example, Control X, Control L will complete the line, so that's pretty fancy. And then Control X, Control S will complete with spelling. But since we don't have spelling set up, we have to do that. So we're going to do set spell Now that we have the spell set up, we could do stuff like this. So say we did THI, we do Control X, Control S, and it will correct it to V and give us a bunch of different corrections for maybe what we could have meant, which can be pretty helpful if you guys, like me, are terrible spellers. Now another completion that you guys may want to use is, say you've got to complete a path. So say for example we did home, and we can do Control X, Control F, and it will just complete as we go. And then once there's no other option, it will start offering us completions. So say we want to go to documents, all that sort of stuff. So we can do simple path completion just like that. Now, as much as I'd like to show you all the different kinds of completions that you guys can do, I'll just go ahead and show you where you can find some more completions and how you can use them. So you're going to go help, and then you're going to do ins-completion, and there you go. There's a huge list of them right here. So we have Control X, Control L, we have Control X, Control N, all that sort of stuff. And there's a bunch of different kinds of completions. You can do completion by tag, a dictionary, so a collection of different words. You can do a thesaurus, all that sort of stuff. You can do current and included files with Control X, Control I, and I'll try and show some of these off as we go, but obviously I can't show everything. Some important ones to look at that might be helpful is if you guys are writing some Vimscript, right here, Control X, Control V actually does completion for the Vim commands. So like when I'm down here and I do H tab, it will give me completions, which can be pretty useful. So for example, if I'm down here and I do let Control X, Control V, it will give me all the different options that it would in the command line. So that's pretty helpful. Kind of hard to see since the spell's enabled, but if I just do set no spell, then it will go away, and then I can just do equals Control X, Control V. Let's just try that again. And then it will give me all the different things that it thinks that it might want to complete with. So that can be really helpful if you guys are writing Vimscript, and makes it substantially easier to work with. So the main star of the completions that I wanted to actually show off today is Omnicomplete. So Omnicomplete is, like I mentioned before, similar to Intelligent Completion or IntelliSense in different IDEs. And it gives you basically completion based on the language and what it suggests that you need. So if I just quit this window and I tried to use it, so Control X, Control O, it's going to say there's no Omnicomplete func or omnifunc set, and that's just basically saying that there's nothing set to use for completion in this file type since we don't have any special things set up. If I just leave this, and so here we have a JavaScript file, so we're going to do set omnifunc equals, and then we're going to do Java
hashtag
Alright, so as you guys could probably tell, I had to read that off of a separate file because that's pretty long. So for something like this, you'd probably want to automate setting this up for you and setting your Omnicomplete in your Vimrc, which is pretty simple. In your Vimrc, you just do set omnifunc equals ... like I was entering before. I'll put that in the description so you guys can access it later. So now when I do Control X, Control N, it will give me like document. I can do Control X, Control N again, or Control X, Control O to get the Omni completion, and it's pretty powerful, pretty effective, and it gives you some pretty general stuff. So yeah, so we could do doc, Control X, Control N, or Control X, Control O, Control X, Control O, and it will give us a bunch of other completion. Pretty powerful if you guys are working with JavaScript, but some things, like I said before, like C, are not quite as nice to work with. And if you guys want to learn a bit more about how omnifunc works, you can just do help omnifunc, and this will give you information about it. And then see that it usually wants you to set it with file type plugins, which is something you guys can look into. I feel like it's not worth covering in this video, but there's a lot of different stuff like that that you guys can go ahead and implement yourselves. Now, finding these omnifuncs can be a bit frustrating because they can't really be the easiest to find, but the best way to find them, if somebody knows a better way, please let me know in the comments, but the best way that I have found them is either seeing someone else is using them, and then slash, and then hit tab, and it will complete you. And then you want to go to Omnicomplete, and then you can go through here, and there's a bunch of different language specific ones. So say, oh, A to complete. Most of the ones that you're looking for will have complete in the name. These will all be, so there's a bunch of different completion plugins that you guys can use, like Haskell Complete. It goes on and on. So just to get started with actually making our own completions, we're gonna just start off with a simple file. So I'm just gonna do, E is just a alias I have for Vim, and then we're going to open mycomp.vim. And so this is just an empty file, and it's going to have its file type set to Vim just because it ends with a .vim. So now just to start off, we're going to make a function. Don't worry if you guys have never actually worked with Vimscript before. This should be pretty self-explanatory, and I'll try to explain every step as we go. So we're going to do func, and then, so it's going to be function bang, and that's basically, the bang's just there so that way if there's already a function with the same name as what we're doing, then it will be overwritten. So for example, it's not going to give us an error saying, oh, this function already exists. And we're just going to call this myfunc. And the reason that it is capitalized is just because Vim's built-in functions actually have all lowercase, so this is just to avoid us overlapping with them. So now what we're going to do is we're going to get started. So just to start off really easy, we're just going to do echo hello. And we're going to want to put that in quotes. All right, so now we've got our plugin. And so now what we're going to do is we're going to do source. And we're going to source this file, right? And then what we can do now is we're going to do call myfunc. Bam, prints hello. Pretty easy. So now we're going to kind of mix this up a bit more, and we're going to get started making something else. So let's make a variable. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to do let words equals hello, and then we're going to do words, and just like before, we're going to save, we're going to source it, and then we are going to call it. And so it's going to print hello. We could do world just to clarify that this is running a second time. Hello world. So now we can keep expanding upon this. So another really simple way to expand on this is we're going to basically want to make like a list is probably what we'll want to do. So to make a list, we're just going to do square brackets, and we're going to put some stuff in it. So we're going to just give it, let's just give it Gavin. Oh, I forgot to mention, best practice to use single quotes instead of double quotes, just because single quotes in Vim can be a comment, so it just kind of makes things a bit easier. So now we're going to do Gavin, wall, and all right, and we're going to want to put commas to separate out the list. And then we're going to do words. We're going to do words 1. All right, now you guys can think about this for a sec, think about what it's going to be, but we're just going to save it. We're going to source it again, and we are going to call it, and it's going to print 1. So as you'd expect with most languages, Gavin is at 0, wall is at 1, and hello is at 2. So pretty simple. Now I'm going to try and kind of get a bit further on in this, and we're going to actually do something else. So now we're going to call a function built into Vim. We're going to do call, and we're going to do, so we can use that Control X, Control V to get completion, and we're going to do complete. Now we want to learn more about it. So if we go to the help for complete, you'll see that it says start call and matches. Now it has a lot of different stuff that we can do, but what we're going to do is we're just going to go ahead and do the start call as call dot, and dot is just basically wherever the cursor is. So it's basically just going to start where the cursor is, and then we have to give it something to complete with. So here we're just going to complete with words, and that should all add up. All right, now just to add to this, we're going to do return, and we're just going to return nothing. All right, so that's not super important. It's just going to tell it basically to do this completion, and then that is the end of our function. So now we are just going to save that. We're going to source it, and then we're going to go down here. We're going to do Control R equals, and then we're going to do myfunc, and it's going to give us our words to complete. Now we can expand this, maybe make the words a bit longer, and you can actually add some extra stuff. So if I just open this up all the way, you'll see that you can do stuff like adding completion options, check for completion. You can do completion info as well, which will give it basically more information, like stuff like is it a keyword and extra information to put in your completion. And so that's pretty cool. So now that we've got this, let's actually map it to something. So we're just going to do Control X, instead of doing Control X, Control M, we're just going to do Control X M, and we're going to map that to Control R equals myfunc. All right, so now we're just going to save that. We're going to source it like we had before. The reason I used IMAP is just because it allows us to remap the same key binding, but if you were actually like comfortable with this and this is what you wanted, you do no remap, just to avoid anything from overlapping with it. Anyways, so going back to this, we're just going to save it, we're going to source it, and then what we're going to do is we're just going to do Control X, M, and then it will give us this, and we can hit enter, and it will give us all our completion options. In fact, I could actually just add CR to basically say do enter for me. Let's save it, source it, and then Control X M. Bam, there we go. Now we've made our own completion. Pretty simple and pretty easy. Now you can actually write your own Omnicompletes as well. I don't think I'll cover that in this video. I feel like we've done enough Vim scripting for any normal person, but this sort of a thing can obviously be expanded. Basically, the world's your oyster. Make what you like. A lot of different things you can do with it. Now, on top of that, there's actually ways to expand a bunch of different tools, and this is kind of the reason that I use Mucomplete. So just to give you guys a quick little look at how I use Mucomplete, let's just save that, and we're going to go ahead and take a look at my Vimrc. So really quickly, we're just in my Vimrc, and you guys can actually take a look at it. It's linked in the description, and right here I have just where all my settings for Mucomplete are. They're pretty simple, and I have pretty general stuff in here. So first off, let's just look at the normal settings. So complete opt basically just tells it what to do when doing completion. So this stuff down here basically tells it don't complete with include or tag, because I want Mucomplete to take care of that. No select, as in don't select it right away. Auto on, all that sort of stuff. This is the big one. You kind of just want that, so that way when you start up Vim, it will enable it right away. Now, there's a couple of different things. So for word list, this basically just gives you a bunch of words that it will offer as completion, just as another fallback. There's some completion chains. So you can set the default completion chain, and then it will give you just the default. And mini right here is actually my snippets. List will be the word list. Omni is Omnicomplete, obviously. Path is file completion. Control N is Control N like normal. And uspell is basically just a special form of spelling completion. And then you can have extra stuff like spelling and strings, spelling and comments will use just spelling. Same sort of thing that you'd expect from a lot of other options. And you can give it its own regex for how to select what syntax areas you're in to say that you're in a string or a comment. Now we get into the actual specifics for each language. So for HTML, I have like Omnicomplete and mini snippets set up ahead of time. There's a bunch of different stuff, all for specific languages. You can duplicate them. So all the settings that I have for Markdown, I want to use for due to, which is like a org mode that I use, mail and git commits. And then on top of that, you can have special stuff like, say, triggering special completion, for example, like when you hit dot, it will use Omnicomplete, like you'd see here. You can go pretty crazy with how in-depth you want your completion to work. I highly recommend taking a look at it, but you don't need all this completion. You can simplify it a lot more than I have. I just am picky and I like to customize, so this is kind of how I ended up in this sort of a situation. Now, if you guys remember before, I showed you guys that you can make your own functions and map them to a key. Now, what you get with Mucomplete is you can actually do your own sort of thing very similar to that. You'll see it right here is you could do Mucomplete user mappings. And so here I have one set up, which is mini, which will basically call mini snip complete. The big thing is that this is actually basically mapping the same sort of thing that we did before, but instead of actually having to map it to a key, we're mapping it to a keyword. And so now if we go back to my different languages, you'll see that mini snip is at the start because I want it to complete my snippets before it completes all the other stuff. For example, if I did if, it will complete me with a snippet, and then I can expand my snippet. But if it didn't find anything in there and I did a G:, Mucom, it will offer more completions outside of that. So if we looked, we could actually see, oh, we have all this different stuff set up for Vim, but CMD right here is actually using Vim's built-in completion. So pretty powerful, and I'm sure you guys can see the advantage to doing something like this. Gives you as you type completion, but it doesn't go too crazy. Anyways, I think I'll probably make a similar video in the future, maybe just giving a quick showcase of Mucomplete, but for now, I think we'll just start off with just this, and I feel like you guys can work from there. If you guys need to learn more about Mucomplete, you can go to the help, and it will give you all the information that you can need. I find this really awesome, especially because I can integrate with other things. So for example, as much as I like OmniFuncs and completion with that, it does have its limitations. So the way that I actually overcome those limitations is, if I go back to my Vimrc, I actually go ahead and use a separate plugin, which is Vim-LSC, and there's other ones. Vim LSP is another option, which allows you to use Vim's Omnicomplete, but using an LSP or a language server. If you don't know what that is, it's basically a way to get even more complex completion, which is really awesome, and it allows you to get a bit more special and customize a bit more and get a lot better completion, as well as linting, all that sort of stuff built into your editor. Anyways, guys, I hope you guys feel like you've learned a decent amount in these videos, and I hope you guys feel like you can start using this completion right away. Obviously, I didn't go too in depth on some of the different things I mentioned. This was more just to give you guys a quick introduction and get you guys started with it. Let me know if you guys want me to go more into depth on any of these different topics. Let me know if you guys are interested in a bit more Vimscript related stuff. Anything like that, hit me up in the comments and let me know. Anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Hope to see you next time. Have a great day. See you later.